Today I would be talking on three important aspects pertaining to spiritual journey of a person. When we say the spiritual growth of a person, what does it mean? Second, how the process is affected. I mean, what exactly happens? And third, how a person realizes that he is spiritually growing. To understand these three basics, I'll first give you an example uh, to explain you what is the spiritual growth of a person is all about. Suppose there are two persons. A person one has got let's say 10 crores in bank account, but he also has 20 crores liabilities. The second person, he may be having just 10 lakhs, but he has no liabilities. Now between these two persons, whom do you say that is rich? It's a common sense that the person who has no liabilities but is left with so much adequate cash in the bank account is deemed to be richer than the first one. I mean, relatively. But for the people who observe them from outside, it is the other way around. The person who is got 10 crores in his bank account, people think that no, he is a rich person in comparison to the second person. Same is the case with the spiritual growth of a person also. When the accumulated karma is more in a person in comparison to a person who has got less balance of karma left out, we say that the person who has the less karma is spiritually higher, in a higher state than the person who has got more karma accumulated. Please remember, it has nothing to do with the materialistic status of a person. The spiritual growth of a person simply, rather inversely proportional to the accumulated karma. A person may be giving a lot of money to charity, organizing food distribution programs to the poor people, or he may be undertaking many social welfare activities. He may be acquiring a lot of religious merit, what we call it punya. He will get benefited by that. But it has got nothing to do with the spiritual growth of the person. Spiritual growth of a person is totally a different thing. It depends as to how much less karma he is left with. If a person is undertaking a lot of charity work, he is accumulating that much of karma only there. Now let us see how the process is affected. As you are all aware, soul, or we call it Atma in Sanskrit, is at the core of every human being. Atma, we say that, is divine in nature. Rather, there is no difference between the individual soul and the universal soul. They are both of the same nature, just like a fire and a spark of fire, or a ocean, a droplet of water. The nature is same. Now, how will soul will never know what it is? How will the realization will set in? Obviously, the soul cannot see itself and look at itself like we all look at ourselves in a mirror. It needs a kind of an instrument wherein it can see something reflected back to it. so that the realization starts dawning in that person. A peaceful mind, absolutely peace in a state of thoughtless mind, acts as this kind of a mirror. It acts as a kind of a mirror to the soul. But the point is, we are talking about an ideal situation. But even when the process is getting affected, as the mind becomes calm and calmer and calmer, uh, as the thoughts are lesser and lesser, even at that point, the soul will be able to see something being reflected back to it. And that is important. What is that something that is being reflected back to the soul or the Atma? All ancient scriptures have been harping on the fact that the divine has got three qualities: Sat, that is truth absolute; Chit, consciousness absolute; and Ananda, the bliss absolute. The truth absolute, consciousness absolute, and bliss absolute. These are the three qualities of the divine. Call it God, call it Paramatma, call it universal soul, call it individual soul, whatever. It all means the same thing. These qualities start getting reflected back to the soul from the mind. That is the key point to understand. As a result, the individual soul realizes what is happening inside. But for a person who is looking from outside, he will not be able to make out unless that person is also in the similar state of mind. For example, I will give the example of Mahabharata. You all know how many people have seen Lord Krishna roaming on the streets of Mathura city. But how many have recognized that the God is roaming around there, right from his childhood onwards? Only very few who have elevated their own spiritual growth to that level could recognize it. Even the great warrior Bhishma could realize it only towards the fag end, just before he left his body, that Lord Krishna was none other than the God. Similarly, during the time of Ramayana, how many people haven't seen Lord Ram roaming on the streets of Ayodhya or elsewhere? And how many have realized that he is none other than the God roaming around there? Very few could recognize that. Same is the situation here also. When a person is spiritually growing, unless someone else who is in the similar state of mind, others won't be able to recognize him. So this is the crux of the spiritual growth all about. And of course, as the karma is getting eliminated, as the soul starts seeing its three qualities being reflected back to it, the person also simultaneously starts losing interest in the outside worldly things. That's what we call it as vairagya or dispassion in day to day, loose terminology. So this spiritual growth, it's a kind of a comprehensive thing which happens simultaneously, and elimination of the karma or freeing oneself from the karma, freedom from the karmic bonds, freedom from everything that is due to the result of karma. This freedom is called the spiritual growth of an individual.